Rise and shine, Rwanda. It's Thursday, the 1st of October. Good morning, it's just after 7 o'clock in the morning and you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja. And over the next hour, we'll bring you all the latest news, sports and business headlines from here in Rwanda and around the world. Now Fidelis is not here, but we will be holding it down for her. All right, so we're going to be talking about, what happened in the UEFA Champions League, another FIFA scandal, and of course, we'll talk about Derrick Rose being injured once again, and, business news, what happened all over the world while you were asleep. But first, Rise and Shine story of the day. A regional conference we previewed on this show on digital media technology opened in Kigali yesterday. The meeting, dubbed the Third African and Digitalization Conference and Public Media Alliance Regional Meeting for Africa, attracted participants from 14 Southern African Development Community countries and 3 member states of the East African Community, namely Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. Take a look. Participants are deliberating on how the broadcasting sector and ICT industry in general can best leverage available infrastructure to be more effective in information dissemination. It is being held under the theme Opportunities for Africa Beyond the Digital Deadline.
We need to know or speak together and say, what are we going to do next? How do we improve content? How do we bring in infrastructure? How do you even source this infrastructure? Because when you deal as Rwanda alone, as Namibia alone, as South Africa alone, as Zimbabwe alone, at times it becomes difficult to deal with these external vendors. But how do we speak and work jointly as public broadcasters, even private broadcasters, to be able to bring in the relevant infrastructure that we need for the African people?
The 3-day conference was opened by Prime Minister Anastase Murekezi, who said that the forum provides a great opportunity for public broadcasters and governments to explore ways to maximize the dividends presented by digital broadcasting.
There's been a lot of talk about Africans being able to speak their own story, talk their own story, tell their story. And this has been said in different forums. But now it's time that we really thought of how can we, for example, develop a mini CNN, a mini Al Jazeera of Africa. And it starts with we, the broadcasters. SADC is starting something that's very important. They're doing a bouquet for the SADC sub-region, where all the member states are going to be hosted on that bouquet. That means if I'm in Zimbabwe, I can watch TV from Namibia, free. If I'm in Tanzania is part of SADC, I can watch TV from Angola. So we're also hooking up onto that, to be part of that bouquet.
Nyingi wanaangalia vitu ambavyo ni vile makosa. Hawaangalii mambo ya maendeleo kwamba kumefanyika kitu kizuri hiki wakatangaza. Lakini wenzetu ndio mfumo wanaotazama. Na sisi kwa sababu wakati mwingine tulifundishwa katika nchi hizo, na sisi tumejikuta tunaangalia habari katika mtazamo ule tunasema hasi, negatives. Sasa hilo tutaliangalia kwamba tufanyeje sasa habari zinazohusu ukanda huu, nchi zetu hizi, ziandikwe na kutayarishwa na waandishi na waandaaji vipindi wa nchi hizo, ili kueleza yale ambayo yanatuhusu sisi, kueleza mambo mazuri ambayo yamefanyika, changamoto zinazowakuta wananchi, lakini na majibu yakifanyike kitu gani.
To a better migration towards digital media. Regis Isheja, Rise and Shine Rwanda. Well, great things there. Hopefully, the migration towards digital media is even better than what we think. All right, stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. Business news are coming up next.
It's unbelievable, but what you see is what you pay.
All right, let's get to today's business headlines. My name is Regis Isheja. Plans to extend the Smart Kigali initiative to city public transport sector have hit a snag following failure by operators and the regulator to acquire the required equipment to facilitate the switchover. City public transport service providers were supposed to switch to automated fare collection services by the beginning of this month. Three firms, Kigali Bus Services, the Rwanda Federation of Transport Cooperatives, and Royal Express, were awarded a 5-year deal to provide public transport services in 2013 under the new Kigali Transportation Master Plan. They were from the onset expected to gradually embrace ICTs, including automated ticketing for better service delivery. Operators and regulators have said the implementation of the initiative may now take months, but say they are in advanced stages to have the new fare collection system in place by December. And over the past few years, the government and private sector joined hands to find solutions to challenges that were hampering growth of the export-oriented industries. Subsequently, the government signed deals with close to 40 firms to support them in various ways with the view of expanding the country's export base, increasing volumes and earnings. This is one of the targets under the country's growth blueprint, the second economic development and poverty reduction strategy, where the government looks to increase exports to 28% per year from about 20%. Under the agreements, exporters pledged to increase productivity and add value on more products, while the government committed itself to put in place the right infrastructure and environment to help realize these goals. All right, you're up to date with today's business headlines. Sports news are coming up next with me. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Time now for your sports news. I'm Regis Isheja. Starting with local football, Rwanda's national football team Amavubi Stars will play an international friendly against Burkina Faso during the team's forthcoming training camp in Morocco, scheduled for October 4th to the 17th. Jonathan McKinstry's team will have a 2-week training camp in Morocco in preparation for the 2018 World Cup qualifier against Libya in November, as well as the 2016 African Nations Championship Finals tournament that will be held in Rwanda next year. A 23-man Amavubi squad, including foreign-based players, will leave Kigali immediately after the Azam Rwanda Premier League games next weekend. Amavubi are keen to register a positive result when they take on Libya in Tripoli before hosting them in Kigali. Both games will be played within the November 7th and 19th timeline. After the return game against Libya, Amavubi will compete in the Sekafa Senior Challenge Cup that will be staged in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, from November 27th to December 12th before they return home to train ahead of the CHAN 2016. Moving on to international football, FIFA's Ethics Committee has banned Jock Warner from football-related activities for life following an investigation into the budding contests for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. Former CONCACAF president Jack Warner is a former FIFA vice president and executive committee member, but after having been suspended over earlier accusations of bribery relating to presidential election, the governing body said at the time of his resignation that the presumption of innocence is maintained. However, FIFA's Ethics Committee opened an investigation into Warner earlier this year and said that he committed many and various acts of misconduct continuously and repeatedly during his time as an official in different high-ranking and influential positions at FIFA and CONCACAF. Warner is currently fighting extradition on U.S. charges of racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering in the FIFA corruption case. He has to report twice weekly to a police station, and his passport has been seized. On to the National Basketball Association. Bulls star Derrick Rose will have surgery on his left eye after being elbowed in the face. The 2011 NBA MVP sustained a left orbital fracture on the first day of practice. He's scheduled for surgery, and a timetable for his return will be determined after the operation. It's the latest in a long line of injuries for Rose, and the last thing the Bulls needed with a new coach in Fred Hoiberg. Rose missed all of the 2012-2013 season after tearing his left ACL during the first round of the 2012 playoffs, and played only 10 games 2 years ago after tearing the meniscus on his right knee. He also had a minor procedure on the right knee late last season. It still remains to be seen if he can consistently play at the level that propelled the Chicago product from Rookie of the Year to All-Star to MVP in his first 3 seasons before the injuries set in. Rose showed some flashes last season, averaging 17.7 points, and was eyeing big things this year. He came into camp after a summer of training instead of rehab. And joining me in studio now is someone who's become family to the show, Usher Komugisha. Welcome to the show once again. You should become part of the show already. You're like, part of the decor at this point.
Thank you very much.
We love having you here. All right, so let's start with our Amavubi Stars, our national team. They're headed to Morocco for training camp right after this weekend's Azam Premier League bouts. But now, what's to expect from the Libya games, from the Burkina Faso friendly game, and moving forward, the Sekafa tournament that will be taking place in Addis Ababa, and then the CHAN that we're hosting come January?
Well, I think it's very important really to have regular training camps, with the national team, because while the other countries that will play at CHAN are going through the qualification process, it's very important for Rwanda to actually go and play, friendly games. They had planned to go to Scotland in the summer actually and play against Aberdeen and Celtic.
I wonder whose idea that was.
Of course, it was a partnership
Right.
between the Ministry of Sports, the Olympic Committee, and East Lothian, which hosted Rwanda during the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow last year.
Right.
So when that didn't work out, of course they had to work out something else. So this 10-day camp in Morocco, outside Kigali, away from family and friends, they will have that focus that they need, to prepare for this tournament. This is a very big tournament, and it will be very important for Rwanda to do well at home in front of their fans. So the friendly against Burkina Faso will be for Chan specifically, and that should give the players, something like a different challenge. We saw against Ethiopia they did well. They won 3-1 heading into the Ghana game. Of course, you know what happened against Ghana. Right. Just something small in the 87th minute. But we saw that the goal that Amavubi conceded against Gabon was exactly the same goal that was conceded.
So do we have a problem with set pieces?
No, not really. It was just something small that they need to work on, and I think they have the quality to do that. Right. That first half against Gabon, they were really mediocre, and they know that as players, but their second half was very outstanding. It was good. It's just that they were very unlucky. They had a goal disallowed. They had another that hit the post, so it's just something that they can pick up from. So I think against Burkina Faso, Amavubi will do well. They will they will have had maybe because they get to Casablanca on Monday and play on Friday, so that's good time to prepare for that game. And I think now with some new faces in the squad like Rodrigue Mrengezi, he's done well with AS Kigali squad, 4 goals, a hat-trick in there last weekend.
The first hat-trick of the season.
Yeah, sure. And also another player from Police, Hegman. Right. Yeah, he's done well with Police. He's been doing well, so he should bring another aspect to the Amavubi Chan squad. So I think that they'll do well.
Okay.
Really.
Now moving on, before we talk about what the English teams did in the UEFA Champions League, I know we're all excited to talk about that. Let's first talk about this Jack Warner case, where he's been now banned for life when it comes to anything related to football. What do you think is happening? Because he's been in the FIFA's crosshairs for a minute now. Is this, the bigwigs letting him, loose, knowing they're going to be called on at some point too? What's happening?
I think it's about time really that action should be taken against FIFA officials. And if you look at the case details really, and they're looking back at 1991, that's way back really, that's about what
25 years.
Yeah, 24 years ago. So it's really absurd that this has been going on and nothing has been done by the FIFA Ethics Committee, but maybe finally something is going to be done. So it should be like a warning to everyone else, who is involved. We know that there's been things like a lot of corruption, for example, going into like the decision to get the hosts, the issue about Russia and Qatar, and also to know that the selling of TV rights, these things, tickets. You see Jerome Valke also, being, sent away. So it's a bit weird, but it had to be, it had to be done. Something
and we're
like
hearing about Michel Platini too,
yeah.
who may have to face certain things coming up in the next days, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's denying the the claims, the allegations, right, and whatever. But it's really about time that everything came up. Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Now let's move on to match day 2 of the UEFA Champions League. Chelsea, Arsenal. I mean, we can go on and on. What's happening with English football, especially on the European scene?
Well, for me, really, I think that when you look at Arsenal and Chelsea, they have the quality to perform well, especially in the group stages. But for me, it's really tactical decisions that let them down. If you look at, for example, Wenger, why on earth would he not start Peter Cech? He is the best goalkeeper at Arsenal. why would he start Ospina ahead of Peter Cech in a game that they should be winning at home in front of their own fans?
Must-win game, right?
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at the mistake that Ospina made, really, I think that's like the worst own goal we've ever seen ever. You know, it's ridiculous. From where he was standing, it seemed like he didn't know where the ball was coming from. Where, you know, I don't know. You know,
he wasn't ready. Basically.
He wasn't ready. You
right.
know. Then somehow, of course, maybe you want to think whether to blame Mourinho or not for the underperformance of his players. You know, I'm sure he's very frustrated and he's thinking, how can we possibly play like this, you know, during the season? So that's why he decided to drop some of the players. But then again, he's going back to Porto. You would think that he wants to make a statement. Why would you let John Terry sit on the bench, Hazard? These are players who can add a lot of quality, you know.
And who can change the course of the game.
Yeah, right. Who can change the course. Then I don't really understand why Ivanovic is still playing. Like, he's made so many mistakes this season, and I think that it's about time that he trusts Baba Rahman, you know, the Ghanaian player who actually played against Amavubi.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he has the quality to do something. We saw that in, I think, the Capital One Cup game that they played. So I think he needs to give him an opportunity. But then again, I think that really it came down to tactical decisions by the coaches, and that's what failed them.
All right, now let's move on to basketball. Derrick Rose, it seems the man cannot catch a break. I mean, every morning you wake up, it's a new headline. There was some sex scandal allegations that came out not too long ago, and now he has to face another injury. We felt like, you know, last year was, you know, his good luck charm, that he was back to being himself, and that this year, you know, he was going to perform with a new head coach, with the team being basically intact. You felt like they could have made some noise in the Eastern Conference, and now we hear about this. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, actually, I was awake when the news, you know, came up. I think it was about 1 a.m. or something.
Right.
And, you know, I could not believe it. It's very devastating, even just for him as a player. I know you come and then the first day of practice, seriously, you get an injury and then you have to undergo surgery. But I think that it's not very, very bad. I think he'll come back sometime, you know, during the season, maybe in November, maybe. I hope when he comes back he can try to pick up, and that, you know, his knee does not also give way. But also the problem with that sort of injury, you know, to the face is that he will start playing like he's fearing. People, you know, should not.
It's like you favor one leg when it's been injured before.
Right. So now, I mean, basketball is a contact game. So here you are going up for a layup, and you're fearing that maybe someone is going up, you know, to get the rebound or to block you.
So you might want to just shoot from outside. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I read an article actually right before coming to work from Sam Smith, you know, a columnist at the Chicago Tribune, and he's talking about how they hope he could be back for the main day, the beginning of the season, so he could skip the entire preseason and come back for the first game of the regular season. Hopefully that's true, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope so, really. And actually that's what all the media outlets are saying, that maybe he'll be available on October 27th. So hopefully for the Chicago Bulls fans that, you know, he comes back, because he's really going to play a huge part in their, you know, if they have tight aspirations, any chance of winning. And also for him to get back to the player that we saw, you know.
The explosiveness of Derrick Rose was something.
Yeah, I know. Even, you know, I mean, during the 2011-2012 season, like, to see that kind of player, like, I think everyone around, you know, the basketball.
We hadn't seen anything like it since Iverson, basically.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
You know.
So everyone is really excited to see him play, to see the person that they thought he would become, you know.
Right.
So we just hope that, you know, he will recover from such an injury.
And really let's cross fingers for Kobe Bryant, who's coming back from injury as well. Well, Asha Komugisha, thank you so much. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Do not go anywhere. News are coming up next. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Let's take a look now at news-making headlines here in Rwanda and around the world. His Excellency President Paul Kagame called on the United Nations member states to not merely pledge commitment to the new global goals, but to acknowledge that the bold new targets will only be reached if all countries work together and acknowledge their mutual interdependence. The President made the remarks during his address to the UN General Assembly in New York City. The new Sustainable Development Goals were endorsed by world leaders last Friday and are seen as a new chapter meant to shape the global development discourse for the next 15 years between 2015 and 2030. He stressed that the ambitious 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development had set out good commitments that must now be fulfilled. Noting that cooperation is the only way forward, President Kagame called on a new form of global cooperation that recognizes equality and respects national systems. President Kagame concluded his speech by highlighting the importance of respecting the dignity of every nation, saying, quote, "No country or system has a monopoly on wisdom, much less a claim to moral superiority," and end quote. Police have said preparations to institute a 140-strong all-female formed police unit to be deployed in U.S. peacekeeping operations are in high gear. The announcement follows Monday's pledge made by His Excellency President Paul Kagame and Commander-in-Chief of Defense and Security Forces during the UN Leaders Summit on Peacekeeping Operations to deploy an extra military and police peacekeepers, including an all-female police unit. This will be the 6th FPU that RNP will be deploying to UN missions and the first of its kind whose mandate will focus on resolving gender-related issues and escort duties, among others. Police currently maintains FPU contingents in Central African Republic, Haiti, and South Sudan. In 2010, RNP deployed its first female contingent to the UN mission in Darfur. Rwanda is currently the leading contributor of female police peacekeepers in UN missions. And in regional news, Moise Katumbi Chapwe, the powerful governor of the Democratic Republic of Congo's copper-rich Katanga province, has stepped down from his government post and resigned from President Joseph Kabila's ruling party, PPRD. In a declaration posted on his Twitter account, Katumbi, seen by many as a potential candidate for the presidency, said he had decided to resign over what he said was the national government's attempts to defy the constitution and delay elections. Kabila has ruled the vast Central African nation for 14 years, but is barred from standing again in elections next year. The government spokesman has said he will respect the constitution, but critics say he's using violence and the manipulation of a packed elections calendar to prolong his rule. In his statement, Katumbi said he had also been pushed to his decision by the arrest of pro-democracy activists, increasingly violent police repression, and intimidation. Hailing from Katanga, the heart of Kabila's political power base, Katumbi had long been considered among the president's staunchest supporters and a natural successor. However, Katumbi has publicly distanced himself from Kabila over the past year. And in international news, Russia's upper house of parliament has voted to allow the military to be deployed in Syria, paving the way for airstrikes on the militant Islamic State group. The vote followed a request from Syria for military aid. Russia ruled out the use of ground troops and said the step involved only the use of the Air Force. President Vladimir Putin called this week for a broad anti-terror coalition. He told the UN it should be similar to the alliance that opposed Hitler in World War II. A US-led coalition has been carrying out airstrikes against IS in Syria and Iraq for more than a year. The US and Russian leaders have long differed over Syrian conflict, which has claimed more than 250,000 lives and forced 4 million people to flee abroad. The US insists President Assad must leave office, and President Barack Obama told the United Nations General Assembly there could not be a return to the pre-war status quo after so much bloodshed. You're up to date with today's news. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
It's unbelievable, but what you see is what you pay.
Now, don't forget, we love to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on what we're talking about here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page where you can catch all the shows and the reports we do on a daily basis. Find us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We'd love to see your pictures. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website. That's www.riseandshinerwanda.rw. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'd love to hear your feedback, so do let us know if you have an idea for the program. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, so do join us then. But for now, from me and the rest of this great team we have here at Rise and Shine Rwanda, have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.